It's not so much that I need you to stop fighting, it's that I don't want you to jack up the sound levels as soon as I start recording.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's all you care about.
but dual purpose, now that I've got you settled, let's do math. So, everybody should be looking at a Chapter 5 Mastery, unless you're not, and then you should raise a hand, and that's probably because you weren't here and probably need one. I don't know. Sorry, we should not see the little picture-in-picture window, so I don't know what happened there. So, we are going to go problem by problem. This is obviously the key. A key. A key. A key. A key. A key. Huh? What? No. So, if you put your test away, please get it back out. If you don't have one, please raise a hand. So we can make sure we're all looking at the same thing. We are doing a self-grade. So, sorry if my little highlighters are always helpful, wasn't clear enough. You need a highlighter or a pen. You need something that writes in a permanent fashion. Not a permanent marker, because that will bleed. A highlighter or a pen.
Mr. Hudson, can I go get my pen? I know I have it in my locker.
Oh. Are you taking 2 desks right now?
No.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was going to steal those from whoever was away from their desk. But...
I bought.
How sneaky is
that doesn't protect them.
It does. It's like more protective.
Hey, if you ever need a
Should've
job,
gotten
I'm
back
really
right
good to
now.
get married.
Did you ever take this test? And Bella, why do I have Bella's test on my desk? What? Oh, you're out of the room. And then, hey, whoever passed back tests, did we see Morgan's? Unless yours got stuck in the wrong file.
What should we write as the title?
It literally said on
Chapter 5 Mastery.
What?
Mastery 5 revisions. Oh, okay.
I don't know where yours is. It should. I mean, are you sure you turned it in? Can you check your binder for me? Because I don't have, I don't really lose papers. They are one of 3 places, and yours is not there. All right, so here's how this is going to go.
Mr. Hudson, are you saying you can't lose a paper?
No, I just normally don't, because they're either in my backpack, on my desk, or in the bin. Literally, those are and if they're at my house, I'm doing something with them.
And then you bring them back.
And then they either go in my backpack or on my desk. So, you are grading your test, because guys, I leafed through these and I looked at them. So for my friends that are doodlers, please stay with me today. Once we graded a question, if you know that you got everything right and you're confident in that skill, it's fine. You can go back to your doodle. But I need you to check your work first. Okay? I'm being pretty cool with you to say, it's okay if you're drawing as long as you know the math. But guys, we're going to take at least all of today, and we'll take time tomorrow if we need. Today is grade cutoff, assignment cutoff. So not that you have to have your assignments in today, but today is the grade cutoff. Like I said on the start slide, Chapter 5's Mastery is part of Quarter 3. So if maybe you got everything right, you might have a mastery at the end of this and be able to tell yourself that, but most of the tests that I was leafing through and looking at, you made some mistakes. On one thing or another, you've got some concept you're not quite getting, or some concepts, potentially. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I have this loaded up on my dot camera. My plan is to then, as we need to, take pictures of this, and then write on this as much as we need. So, for example, if anybody is still at all confused on number 1, and I know you're going to have to be bold to do this, but I need you to stick up a hand and ask a question about what is still confusing you, so I can then say, okay, well, let's talk about that. And we can put this here and highlight, and I can write on things, everything else. So look at my work. The answers you should have for A are X on the bottom being 20%, Y on top being a value of 48, because it is 30%. So if you put Y as 30%, you're not wrong, but that's supposed to be the numerical value. And then over here is 40% in that region, which if we take the 40% being 64, because they tell us that, then we can get back to 10%, our nice 10% rule there, and solve it from there. And then also please check B, did you find it or not? I'm just going to give you a new one to work through it with us, and then we'll figure out where yours is later. Can everyone check your test? Make sure you didn't accidentally get 2 back, that Morgan's isn't stuck here somehow. Sometimes staples take a ride with each other.
There was 1 extra in the pile. It was not Morgan, it was Bella.
Right, which we have back to Bella now. And there are no extras here. And there are no other piles.
So it's not my fault. Don't accuse me of that too.
Toby, what do you do? What do you do? Toby, why are you just so mean? Toby.
Any
Oh my
questions?
god, that was so mean.
Hey, quit being mean to Toby. I'm going to give Toby sanctuary in this classroom, at least for today, meaning no picking on Toby,
Yay.
at least for the next 33 minutes.
Okay.
I have that on video.
I have Morgan Heron's test, but not the correct one.
Same.
Could I please have Sophie Freeman go to the main office? Sophie Freeman to the main office. Thank you.
Nope, I've checked every potential location. Cannot find it. We'll find it later. Any questions, A or B? Part B, you have a couple different ways you can find that 105 on top. One way is just straight up subtraction. So that's not the way I showed you. I showed you the technique that if we look at 150 being 100%, and now I go this way, instead of going left to right, I went like top to bottom here. I divided by 10 to get back to 10%, whereas up here I divided by 4, right, to get to 10%. So be careful. We're not always dividing by 10 to get to 10%. By the way, guys, on your graph paper, if you made any mistakes on the test, you're doing the problem over on your graph paper. Like really quickly right now, you're essentially copying what I have. So if you have any mistakes and don't have questions to ask, you're just copying what I did essentially and saying like, oh, that's what I did wrong. Nick?
Also, Jalen Bullock, please go to the main office. Jalen, please go to the main office. Thank you.
What was that?
If we mess up like partially, like we mess up one part but not the other, do we have to copy that up?
I mean, kind of. Problems like this, it all sort of goes together. So like, if you didn't get X, you probably didn't get Y. And if you just didn't get Z, I'd be confused as to what happened. So that's kind of hard for me to answer. It depends on like how they go together or not.
Oh, I just did a function mistake.
Well, then it might just be a silly mistake, right? So it's one
Yeah,
of those
like
things that.
On A, my thing doesn't have like the little. Oh, you drew that.
What do you mean? This? Yeah, I drew this.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at it from up here, but I was like, you know what? I can actually see what percent it is if I highlight that region and say, oh, that's 40%. So the highlighting here you should see is I worked from 40% back to 10 by doing this math right over here. Once I had 10%, I was able to find my 30 is 48. Any questions? Luke? You're whispering. As long as you know how you got there, it's okay. I showed some extra work just to make sure you guys could understand it. As long as you know how you got there. Any other questions? Number 1. I'm going to use a lot of wait time today, so for those of you that like wait, and then finally ask a question, might actually have a chance to do that. So any other, Lily?
It's not about this, but can we put checks by things we got right?
Yeah, so your highlighter, your pen, whatever, if you got number 1, both parts right, check both parts, part A, part B. If not, you should have something on your graph paper now. All right, now part B, not part B, number 2, I think messed with some people, even though I wrote, create a linear model like the ones above to represent this and use a calculator to answer. So my work that I showed here, you guys notice I made my key. The only thing I did different this time is I worked in pencil because I wanted to be able to erase things because more times than not I make some mistakes. So I split up my line approximately, right? 85% doesn't have to be anywhere specifically perfect, but that leaves me with 15% right here. Not really all that important. What we're looking for is this quantity up top, right? How many bullseyes do we think she made? She has an 85% shooting average.
It's about
Hey Morgan, what that doesn't mean is totally zone me out and not pay attention. So you might, like, you're gonna have to resist sketching because you don't have your test to check. Like, you're gonna probably need to do the revision if we can't find your test. I don't have it, so like, if you want to look through your binder again or go check your locker, you can do that. But like, we gotta find your test, or we gotta do it again. So I don't know where it might be. To find that, which eventually we have to round, we can do the 10% rule, or the 10% trick, or whatever you want to call it. I don't like calling it a rule because it's not really a rule. But divide by 10, I get 41. That's every 10%. Because I could also, from here, say that 5%, well, if 10% is 41, 5% would be approximately 20. Right? So I could do like 41 times 8, and then an extra 20. Or I could just do times 8.5. So we multiply by 8.5. That gets us 348.5. So if we round, I don't know, go up or down. I don't really care. I'll take both answers.
I'm rounded.
Well, you can't make half a shot. You either bullseye or you don't.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't round.
So if you got 348.5, that's fine. But in real life, we'd have to pick a number. Like, you'd have to say one or the other. Right, like you can't have half a person. Questions on number 2. Guys, I'm debating like if we do a take-home re-mastery or if we just do a quick one in class. But please, if you have questions, now is when you're asking them. I should check my phone every now and then. I did. All right, so number 3, while I chop up my work real quick, you guys can check it here.
Yes.
So you should get about 18%. It's like 17.5.
I got 17.
You should not get exactly 18 technically. But if we round, we'll let that go.
I got 17.5.
So if you did a linear model, which you don't have to, but if you did a linear model, this part is an extension to my model because know, K-N-O-W, know that a tip is extra, right? A tip isn't part of your bill. A tip is extra. It's over 100%. So we could do, right here, tip divided by the original bill, right? So that's 7 divided by 40. Tip divided by original bill gives me 17%, 17.5. Or if you do the new total, where'd you put the pen, Molly?
Oh, it's on the table. It should be on the table.
Jumped into here. If you do the new bill is 40. Well, not new bill, but the new total is 47. Although all I had to pay was 40. That tells us we're at 117.5% now, which could go here, but I don't actually care about that number. I need to subtract 100 and just get my 17.5. In the realm of tipping, which I did not write here because everyone kind of has their own answer, look at what you wrote. And guys, if you didn't write anything, you didn't answer part of the question. So hands down for a second. If you did not answer this part of the question, guys, this is like, you gotta get yourself in the habit of make sure you answer every part. When I say, did you check your test? Yeah, but you need to try it. Like, I put that there to try to push you to exemplary, but I want you trying those things. What that means is no risk. I should really label it no risk, like, but answer this question. Because, like, I want you thinking about those things. We're not playing a game for points here. I want to know, did you pay attention to the conversation? Did you actually learn something? What is the range of tipping? What do people normally tip up to? Just shout it out. What percent?
20%.
Like 20%, right? So do you think Mr. Webb had good service here?
Yeah.
Pretty good service. Like 18%, that's pretty close to 20. He probably had pretty good service. Maybe he just had $7 extra in his wallet. And he's like, okay, here's $7. Maybe I rounded this math and he actually tipped like $8 on a $42 bill to just get it up to 50. some people just tip based off what makes the number a nice number. But if you're using a credit card, like it doesn't really matter what's a nice number. Toby?
If we were to put 18% there, would that still be?
Yeah, that's rounded. Yeah. I mean, especially if you have work to support it. Now, 20% would be a little bit of a stretch. I had somebody come up and ask me, well, can't we just say that since 10% is $4, this is almost 20? I said, yeah, but since we know it's not 20, take a couple percentage points off of it, right? Like try to figure out what $1 would be, because it's short of 20% by $1, right? 20% would be $8 here. Does that make sense to everyone? How 20% would be $8 there. Now 4 is weird, so I don't know that I'm actually going to take pictures of this, but everyone needs to check your own 4 kind of critically. A probability of 1 means it is certain. Guys, this, and you might need to write this on your paper, this means 100%. A probability of 1 is 100%, because that's 1 like decimal 1. So I did all of mine off rolling a die, and then I clarify a D6 down here because I was tricky with you guys. But look at what I put for A. Rolling a die and getting a number. Any number. Guys, if you just have rolling a die, like you're not asking probability. You're doing something, but you didn't tell us what you want. To do probability, we have to know what it is that you want. Most of us got this wrong. I'll straight up tell you, most of us did not have a good enough answer that it had everything necessary. At least part of A, B, C, or D on 4. Actually, most of us got D right. When guys, I know some of you are sitting here and you don't believe me. Actually, I think some of you think I don't look at your homework either because I've caught some of you on that. I looked at your tests. I read what you wrote, and that's why we're having this conversation. A lot of you said flipping a coin or rolling it. You gave me those things, but you didn't tell me what you want. You can't just say flip a coin. You have to say flip a coin and wanting heads or wanting tails, something like that. Meredith?
So if I said picking a marble out of a bag with 1 marble, would that work?
Um.
Aren't you guaranteed to get a marble?
Yeah, unless I miss and I don't get a marble.
Why do you do that? I mean, you're just putting your hand in and grabbing a marble.
Sure. That it's like getting the candy you want out of a jar with 1 piece, sort of thing. As long as that's the marble that you want. So, really, if you want to be careful, you could say getting a blue marble out of a bag of only blue marbles. That makes it easier. You don't have to worry about numbers. If you have a bag of only blue marbles and you want a blue marble, now I'm going to bring back your marbles in a second when we get to 0%. A probability of 0 means it cannot happen. You might want to write that on your paper.
I said rolling a Q on a die.
So 1 is certain. 1 means certain it will happen. 0 means cannot happen. So guys, if I roll a d6 and want to get a 7, I can't. It's impossible. As hard as I might try, as many times as I might roll, there's no 7.
I said
Araya? If you want to be technical, you gotta say what side. So normally your test will say a number cube or a 6-sided die. You gotta have that information. So we'll let it slide this time, but technically you need to talk about how many sides are on the die. Because, Araya, there are a lot of dies. Actually, I'll just put this whole thing under here. There are a lot of dies that are not D6s. So this is actually a D8. It has 8 sides. It has fractions on it, but it has 8 sides. This is a D30. This is a D20. Actually, those might both be 30s. Yeah, they're both 30s. I don't even know if I have a D20 right now. But there are, oh, yep, here's a D20. So if you guys ever need to borrow dice, I know we have some people making games. I have lots of dice. But yeah, you need to specify what kind of die. Then as we flip, an example of a theoretical probability right? We can't necessarily say it will happen half the times, but theoretical says, in theory, we can agree about half the outcomes of this thing will be. So, oh, sorry, rolling a d6. I meant that to say rolling a d6. Rolling a d6 and getting an even number. Or actually, rolling any fair die that has an even amount of numbers on it, but I don't want to write that many words, so rolling a d6.
Bit of blind price. Always make your math teacher specify
Yep.
what kind of dice you use.
Wait, what about landing on heads?
Flipping a coin and landing on heads. That's a theoretical probability of a half. Everyone check your parts of 4. Make sure you've either checked it or you've written a new example on your graph paper. With me, mate? Toby?
Okay, so for the probability of 1, I wrote the Earth orbiting the Sun. Would that work?
I mean, yeah, but that's not really a probability situation.
Toby's using science.
Like,
I mean,
you're
it's science.
more talking about like just things occurring. Probability is what we use to talk about things that can happen or not happen. Right? So, like, if I go to the casino, every table there is things that might happen or not. There's no table you walk up to and it's like, the you win table. Actually, there are a lot of them that you might as well walk up and just give away your money and walk away. Like, most of them are stacked against you. It might as well be called the you lose your money table. But it's not a probability of 0. It's a very small probability, but not 0. So, technically, and guys, this is what I'm going to look for as we get further into the year. You need to be better. Like, I don't mean any offense by that, but like the Earth orbiting the Sun is like easy and it's not actually math. What's better is think of a mathematical situation and actually create a probability, like theoretical something that happens. So a bag of marbles is perfect. Although that's not really what we're talking about. Like a bag of candy. Seriously, your brain does this. If you look at a tray of cookies, you're probably looking for the one with the most chocolate chips. Or like the bag of candy, you're wanting a specific candy. Right? Alright, so then D, most of us got this right. 3/10, 3 out of the 10, 0.3. Or 30%. You could also say 30%. That's not technically probability. That's chance. Probability we talk about in a scale from 0 to 1. Alright, now 5. Guys, a lot of us blew off the homework.
We're gonna run through this right eyes.
We're going to wait a second. I'll tell you in a second. First off, I want that to focus.
You didn't write how many different outcomes. Is it?
Because I knew we were going to talk about it together. I don't want just the answer up there. Because I know a lot of you stopped paying attention. Araya, what was your question?
Is it okay if we did it like going down instead of going up?
Yes, I just have more space left to right, so I made it left to right. So I'm trying to copy it so I can write on this. So guys, a tree diagram shows the results. And guys, a lot of you need to be honest with yourself and tell yourself that you had no idea what you were doing and you completely made this up. It's okay. I still love you, Mom and Dad still love you, but you didn't do a tree diagram how it's supposed to be done. What goes on the branches, like out here, are the results. If you wrote penny, nickel, dime,
Oh yeah.
that's not a tree diagram. Unless you're saying, I shake some coins, I drop one, what's the chance it's like that? You could make a game with which coin gets dropped. Like, but that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is flipping each of them. So if you want to write the name of the coin, do it in the middle of the tree. I flipped a penny. I got a heads or a tails. Regardless of what I got, I then flipped a nickel.
Wait, but where's the nickel going?
Well, if I got a heads on pennies, this is heads on both. This is tails on my nickel. So nickel is all of these results. But remember, there's two different universes now, right? Multiverse theory. There's a universe where we got heads on the penny. And there's a universe where we got tails on the penny. we're exploring both of them. We're talking about what could have happened. Then we split again. Man, I should have been teaching this with multiverse theory the whole time. Our multiverse splits again, and now we have 4 different universes. Where I got a heads on the nickel after a heads on the penny, a tails on the nickel after a heads on the penny, a heads on the nickel after a... I shouldn't have written that in green. A heads on the nickel after getting a tails on the penny, and a tails on the nickel after getting a tails on the penny. These are the 4 universes we live in now. Not that we live in, that we could be living in. Now, we explore more! And our universe splits again! And we have how many? 8. There are 8 possible outcomes here. There are 8 potential universes. And guys, I don't want to freak you out. I'm sad that Toby's going to be missing this. But literally, a tree diagram is like the decisions you make every day. You're branching off into your future, right? So when I talk to people about, hey, make your future self happy at your current self, the choices you're making pick the branches, right? So, like, did I cross the street on the red light or wait for the crosswalk? Like, those choices literally impact the rest of your life because you're branching off in a universe of I made this choice. So I will filter in the teachers have to say these things. Don't go down the branch of I made that stupid choice at that party and I did that thing that I'll regret. Like, don't go down that branch.
And go down the I do work.
Yeah, the I do my homework and I do what I'm supposed to.
Parties are for hippies.
What if we didn't do it right? What if we did the card bread? What if we did a list?
Oh, you could list. Yes. I did, thank you. You can be making lists for these things, but guys, lists are kind of annoying. It's because, think about this. Hey, I got some chatter. I know some of it's on the other side of the pod, but if you're creating chatter in here, please stop. Chatter is a chipmunk, not what I need in my classroom, and I'm not joking. Or no, Chatter the chipmunk? I don't know. There was some chipmunk puppet in these, anyone ever been to like Bible school? Like summer Bible camp, whatever? Yeah, he was in these videos of Chatter the chipmunk or Cheddar. So, speaking of cheddar, we have some cheese up here that we could put on our sandwich. When you go in the kitchen and you think about making sandwiches, right, you're going to pick your bread first. So that's why I put that first up here. But again, now you're not putting bread topping, right? Like, that's not the choice you're making. The choice you're making is what type of bread. The results go out here, white or wheat. Then I continue making my sandwich and I choose a topping. I only get one, right? That's otherwise my tree diagram would get confusing. Since I only get one, this is a turkey on white. This is a cheese on white, right? Or yeah, but it says cheese up here. This is fish on white. None of these, well, tuna fish, like tuna fish. These are the actual end result sandwiches. So by the time we get out here, you're able to say what it is, right? Because you can trace its tree back. So that's how we use tree diagrams, is at the end to be able to talk about, oh, this thing is not just cheese, it's cheese on white. So how many sandwich options? 8. Also 8. So like the 3 coins, there are now 8 potential sandwich options. Unless you can put on multiple toppings, but we're not talking about this, it makes things difficult. Make sure you either put a check mark on these or you ask me questions. We're moving on from tree diagrams to what questions about tree diagrams?
Well, this is kind of about the topic in general. So I got that answer, but I did it a different way. Is it okay if I still write that way on my thing just so I remember?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you might have listed like white with turkey, white with
So can I
roast
still
beef,
put
but
a check and still have it on
that's fine,
here
yeah.
just to show?
Yeah, if you just want a reminder.
Yeah.
Other questions about tree diagrams? A list would have been a little annoying, but I mean, if
I liked it.
you could like abbreviate things. But are we sure? No other tree diagram questions?
We're all good on that. Yay.
Well, please don't say things like that, because then especially if someone's waiting, like thinking about asking a question, when you say we're all good, they won't. You know, so I'm not trying to pick on, I'm just saying in any class, please don't try to speak for the class. Check it. I gave you the suggestion of grabbing a shapes template before you started this test, and then actually like down here somewhere, I again suggest that you go grab a shapes template. So if you want to be able to draw a circle on your paper, all you got to do is get a shapes template. So we're going to cover that up so you guys don't look ahead. Notice how I color coded pretty much everything. If yellow is 2/3, that leaves a remaining 1/3 for whatever else we have. So I phrase the question to you as what's the chance of blue or green? Because the only colors are blue, yellow, green. So if it's not yellow, it's blue or green. So at first, I didn't have this region colored. I just knew that this region is 1/3, it's blue and green. There's a part that's blue, there's a part that's green. Right? The only thing I knew at first was my 2/3. I color that and I answer 1/3 left. That was this math. I just wrote it down here. Right? That was this math to figure out there's 1/3 left. Then they come and tell us, well, actually, your green wedge is 1/4. So we then put in the green wedge being 1/4, and we can see what's left for blue, but, you know, can't really trust how I've made my own circle. So we got to do the math. 1/3 of the wheel minus 1/4 of the wheel. Guys, this is where a lot of us fell off the train. So we then use common denominators, and we say, well, this was 4/12, which if we actually try to draw it out, we could kind of do that. And this is 4/12. They should be equal size, but again, mine's not perfect. So these are 4/12. If we get rid of 3 of them to being green, that leaves 1/12 left for blue. And then if there are 24 marbles in the bag, 1/12 of 24 of tells us multiply. We multiply, we get 2. That.
Or you could just do the multiplication.
Or you can do multiplication. Questions? Guys, please be aware, especially since this is going to be our last quarter 3 grade, like we're all doing the follow-up activity to this mastery. Which if you mastered this, that's great. It'll be easy, but like there'll be similar problems, but probably a bit more difficult. I won't make things like this more difficult. The numbers still have to work out, right? Like how many marbles are in the bag. It has to be whole numbers. Because my job is to make sure that you guys are learning what you have to learn, and the way that we do that is through assessment, where you do it on your own. And number 8, Mario's pretty risky.
Yeah.
He's going to buy his next vehicle, apparently based off the results of spinners. So, to fit this all on the page, I got to keep scooching this up. Please give me your eyes up here so I can keep scooching.
Scooching.
He has 4 spinners that they tell us are equally divided. Sedan, truck, van, motorcycle. Then a spinner, different spinner, green, blue, white. These are supposed to be equal. My drawing's not great. I was going to make my table up here, and I realized that's a bad idea. I don't have space. I'm going to come down here. I never said you got to fill in the whole thing, although a lot of you chose to. And I never said that you had to like write words out here. Write whatever works for you. So this is type of vehicle, color of vehicle. Right? So then I can answer the questions I get asked. Probability of spinning a white van. Find white, find van. 1/12, because there are 12 different outcomes in the table. Probability of spinning blue sedan or green motorcycle. 2/12, right? Because each one is a 12. I add them, so I get 2/12, or that reduces to 1/6. Purple truck, although I would totally drive a purple truck, is a 0 chance, Because it is impossible.
It is impossible.
There is no purple up here.
Purple is not one.
Any questions about this problem? Nick.
Does he own all these cars? No, he wants to pick.
Yeah, is this mine?
I don't know.
He can
Oh,
use-
maybe these are all work vehicles. I don't know, man.
Why would you use one?
Dude, don't ask me to make every problem actually realistic. That's asking a lot of me. Alright, stop. Stop your brain. Does anyone have questions up to this point? Because we essentially totally changed gears now. I got a lot of people doodling, but I'm hoping that we've already made it through what you had issues with, or now you're gonna jump back in and pay attention. First things first, check the answers I have written. Then, even if you have the right answer, you should pay attention to the process. I took the algebra way on all of these because we are now into our algebra study this year. You could 5D process these, but I know you all don't love the 5D process, so I didn't. So, in 9, they tell us a triangle has a perimeter of 48 feet. So above that, I wrote F plus S plus T equals 48 for first, second, and third.
I just wrote
Now,
first.
I will tell you, I don't like using T because T looks like plus. Yeah. I normally try to avoid T.
I did 1 ST, 2 ND, and 3 RD.
Oh, first, second, third?
Yeah.
Sure, but that's still going to make things a little tough for you. But as long as you can,
I
like,
got it, so.
now later we'll need to, like, be a little bit nicer with our 3 different things.
Okay.
So, here's where people are going to get goofed up. When we add the 3 sides together, we then start replacing. So my third side gets replaced based off what they told us here. 3 feet longer than the first side. My second side gets replaced with what they tell us here. And my first side, well, is still my first side. So that's us adding the first, second, and third sides. And then we work it from there. Here's the algebra part I'm worried people are going to miss. This, subtracting 8 from both sides, that's how we get to 40. And then this, division by 4, is how we get to our 10. That's how we get 10, 15, and 23.
Is it okay if we did it?
It's okay if you did it a different way. There's other ways to do it. You can use 5D process.
I kind of used the 5D. I kind of like used numbers to like think work.
Yeah, I just wanted to show the algebra because that's what we're into now. Like, we're doing
And I got
algebra
the
now.
same answers.
Same situation for number 10. Tilly and Lily. Sorry, I'll keep showing number 9 if you need. That's why I did this with the dot camera. Tilly and Lily earn 510 together. So the first thing I write down is T plus L equals 510. But then, and this is where people write things down backwards, guys. Please check. T equals 2L. Tilly earned twice as much as Lily. Not L equals 2T. That would be backwards. Then we can put T and L together. But really, that's 2L and L is 510. So 3L is 510. So L is 170 because we divide by 3.
70 times 2.
And then 170 times 2 is 340. The final question. We're actually going to get this done in time. That's kind of surprising. No, sorry, there's 2 more. Not final question, but we'll cover both of these. I need to put a weight on here so it won't roll away. Guys, please check both. 11's answers are 7, 14, and 16. I will go over the last one in detail if you'd like.
The last one was rough for me. I got really high.
Sorry, give me just a second. We're going to go over this.
It's so far away. It's not even funny.
All right, does anyone have questions on 11? 11 was a little weird. Tanisha's twice as old as Ajua, so T is 2A. E, I wrote in two different ways over here. They tell us Alicia is 2 years older than Tanisha. But we know Tanisha is 2A. So I replace my T with 2A. Right? So this T gets replaced with 2A. So that everything can be talked about in A's. Now guys, 12, and then I gotta get you out of here. 12 was meant to be easy, but in a hard way. The math was easy once you do it in the right order. It looks really difficult. So check out A. We always multiply before we add or subtract. When I multiply here, I get 6. When I multiply here, I get 6. Notice both of these are identical to each other. 7 minus 6 is 1. Another 7 minus 6 is 1. This multiplication, well, once we do the subtraction, so really this multiplication, happens before any addition. What's 3 times 1 times 1? 3. Right? Because times 1 doesn't do it. What's 6 plus 3? 9. Your answer is just straight up 9. We continue to have order of operations issues. Over here, multiply first. Everywhere. Multiply up here, multiply down there, multiply down there. So that gets you a 4 here, and on bottom a 16 and a 9. I come this way to the right over here, not down, don't jump straight down. I then, guys, this screwed people up, have to work left to right. After I have this 4, I'm working left to right in that parentheses. So I get 2 plus 3 is 5 minus 4, another 1. You should have been like, oh yeah, 1's easy to work with. Because then 14 times 1, 14. Divided by my bottom, we already figured out is 7. 14 divided by 7, our final answer is 2. We're over time. I'm sorry, we're going to open the wall and get you over to Gold Ring. I'm always happy. You keep them, staple your graph paper from today on them, and then I will have your follow-up activity tomorrow. We're probably just going to spend class time working on that. We might do a little bit of lesson, but we got to get that back. Like, I need that grade back, right? Do not lose this. It will be bad if you lose this. It will be less than great. Yeah, I think there's not a This is going, I'm sorry. Alright, but we made it. We made it. Never ever. Guys, please don't shove that and lose it. Thank you, Aurea, for taking the time to clip it. Thank you, Lydia, for taking the time to clip it. I'll just individually thank people and see how well that works.